In the cold halls of a millionaire's mansion, a little boy lived in perfect silence. His father's money could buy anything except his son's voice. And then came a woman no one expected. What happened next would change all three of their lives forever. The Belmont estate was vast. Marble halls, sweeping staircases, gardens trimmed to perfection. But inside it was quiet. Too quiet. At the heart of that silence was Liam, a boy of 3, the only heir to the Belmont fortune, who had never spoken a single word. Doctors had examined him. Specialists had been flown in from across the country. Therapists had tried every technique they knew. No illness, no injury, no delay in his mind. Just silence. Ethan Belmont, Liam's father, was a man who could command boardrooms, bend markets, and close billion-dollar deals without blinking. But here in his own home he was powerless. Since the day his wife died giving birth to Liam, Ethan had buried himself in work, leaving his son in the care of strangers. Nanny after nanny came and went. None stayed long. None made a difference. Until the day Maya arrived. No glowing resume. No agency recommendation. Just a faded shirt, a small tote bag, and a calm that didn't belong in this house. No one told her that the boy she was about to meet had never spoken a single word in his life. Sometimes, the loudest cries are the ones you can't hear. From the moment she stepped into Liam's world, Maya began to notice the details others had missed. The way his small fingers tapped against his leg when anxiety crept in. The way his shoulders locked stiff if someone touched him too quickly. She didn't rush him. She didn't fill the room with chatter. Instead, she moved slowly, humming soft, wordless tunes, melodies passed down from her grandmother, the same ones that had comforted her as a child. Liam didn't pull away. He didn't speak, not yet. But he listened. Every morning, Maya would kneel to his level, meet his eyes, and say, "Good morning, sunshine." Her voice always steady, always warm. At first, he stared past her, eyes drifting to the nearest window like it might lead him somewhere safer. But slowly, the tension in his tiny frame eased. He stopped flinching when she drew near. The house was still silent, but the silence felt different now, softer. 10 days passed, and for the first time, Liam's eyes didn't look like escape routes anymore. Trust doesn't arrive with noise, it slips in quietly, almost unnoticed. On the 11th day, the air in the Belmont estate felt lighter. Maya lay flat on the hardwood floor, her hands steady beneath Liam's small frame, lifting him high above her like an airplane. His legs kicked. His arms spread wide. A soundless squeal stretched across his face, his mouth open in a pure, silent laugh. It was the first time she had seen him smile like that. The first time he held her gaze without looking away. And then the front door slammed open. Ethan Belmont stood frozen in the doorway, briefcase dangling from one hand. No warning. No call. Just him, staring at his son, airborne in the arms of a woman he barely knew. His voice cut through the room. "What the hell is going on?" Maya didn't flinch. Slowly, she brought Liam down, resting him against her chest. "Because he's flying," she said softly. "And for once, he's not afraid." Ethan's eyes narrowed, confusion battling something he couldn't name. He blinked, because the boy in front of him didn't look like his son anymore. Sometimes one word can shake a life to its core. Ethan had never seen his son like this. There was a light in Liam's eyes, bright, unguarded, something he hadn't known was possible. Then it happened. Liam turned toward Maya, and in a voice so small it could have been mistaken for a breath, he whispered, "Maya." The room went still. Ethan froze, every muscle locked. He must have misheard. His son's first word, and it wasn't Dad. But Liam said it again, louder this time, his tiny hand reaching up to touch her face. "Maya." Tears welled in her eyes, but not from pride. From something deeper, the quiet understanding that trust cannot be forced, it must be earned. Ethan's briefcase slipped to the floor as he lowered himself to his knees, staring at the two of them. What did you do?" Maya brushed Liam's hair from his forehead, her voice steady. "I listened. That's all." Ethan swallowed hard, but no words came. For a man who had built empires with his voice, he had never felt so powerless, or so moved. Ethan didn't know it yet, but that single word had just rewritten his life. When silence breaks, it can echo louder than thunder. Ethan's voice was quieter now. "Do you think he'll say more?" Maya didn't look away from Liam, who sat tracing the edge of her silver locket. "If he feels safe," she said gently. "If he's loved, without condition." Ethan exhaled slowly, almost like admitting defeat. I don't know how to do that. Maya finally met his eyes. You do, she said softly. But you've buried it under everything else. He wanted to argue to defend himself, but Liam's small hum cut through the air. It wasn't a tune. It wasn't even words. But it was sound. For years Ethan had dismissed such noises as nothing, a meaningless murmur from a child. Now, it felt like life itself. He stood there, unsure what to do with the weight in his chest. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was hope. But that night, Ethan didn't go back to work. Sometimes, the smallest voices carry the heaviest weight. The next morning Ethan was the first to find Liam. He bent down, forcing a smile. Good morning, buddy. For a moment, there was only the quiet rustle of the curtains. Then, barely louder than a breath, Liam whispered, Dada. Ethan froze. The word hit him like a stone to the chest. He turned away quickly, biting the inside of his cheek to keep his voice steady, but his eyes betrayed him. 2 days later, Maya returned to her room to find a small bouquet of lilies resting on her bedside table. Beside it, a crisp, folded note in Ethan's handwriting. Maya, you did something no one else could. You gave my son a voice. I don't want to imagine this house without you. Please stay not just as a nanny, but as family. It wasn't signed with titles or formality. Just one word. Ethan. And this time, she didn't feel like just an employee anymore. But there was something Ethan still didn't know. Weeks passed and Liam's world began to fill with small, precious words. Light, when Maya drew the curtains. Cookie, with a crumb-coated smile. And one night as Ethan tucked him in, a quiet, love you. One warm evening, the three of them sat on the back porch, watching Liam chase bubbles across the yard. Ethan leaned back in his chair, eyes fixed on her. Maya, why did you take this job? She hesitated, gaze drifting toward the fading horizon. Because I needed a roof, she said simply. He nodded, but something in her tone felt unfinished. After a pause, her voice dropped lower. But I stayed, because once I was a child who didn't speak either. Ethan's breath caught. She explained how her grandmother's soft, patient songs had coaxed her voice back when everyone else had given up. How she recognized the same shadows in Liam's eyes, and couldn't walk away. The hum of crickets filled the silence between them. And in that moment, Ethan realized she hadn't just saved Liam. She'd saved him too. Some silences are empty, others are full. Liam came running across the porch, his small feet thudding against the wooden boards. Without hesitation, he crashed into Maya's lap, wrapping his arms around her as if she were the only safe place in the world. Ethan watched from his chair. Not as an employer. Not as a man keeping his distance. But as someone who finally understood what family meant. The sky was turning a deep amber, the last streaks of sunlight fading into night. The air carried the soft hum of summer, warm, still, and unhurried. Ethan's gaze shifted between his son and the woman holding him close. Liam had found his voice. And somewhere along the way, Ethan had found hope. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. The moment was enough. And for the first time in years, silence didn't feel like something to fear.